Study Guide. Compare and contrast prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes, simple, no organelles. DNA just floats in cytoplasm, always single-celled. Bacteria are prokaryotes. Eukaryotes, more complex, contain many organelles, including a nucleus, which houses the DNA, and mitochondria, which makes ATP, cellular respiration. Can be single or multicellular. Animals, plants, and fungi are eukaryotes. They are similar because they both contain a cell membrane, cytoplasm, cytoskeleton, DNA, and ribosomes. They are both living. Compare and contrast animal and plant cells. Animal cells have lysosomes, which break down toxins. Many small vacuoles do not have a cell wall. Plant cells do not have lysosomes. They have one large vacuole, and they do have a cell wall. Also, plant cells contain chloroplasts, the organelle that allows them to perform photosynthesis. Everything else is similar between them. They are both eukaryotes and have a nucleus, mitochondria, ribosomes, Golgi body, and endoplasmic reticulum. Describe the function of each specialized cell. Number 3. Describe the function of each specialized cell type below and explain how structures within the cell help it perform its job. A. Neuron. Send and receive electrical signals. Vesicles contain neurotransmitters and carry them to the membrane. Receptors triggered by neurotransmitters allow ions to enter and exit the receiving cell. B. Intestinal. Absorb nutrients from food. Villi and microvilli, small finger-like projections that increase the surface area of the cell. Pancreatic. Produces hormones that control blood sugar. Transport vesicles transport insulin from the Golgi apparatus. Secretory vesicles formed by fusion of smaller vesicles and contain insulin, and a transporter allows glucose into the cell. Sperm. Swim to fertilize egg. Microtubule doublets, dunning arms grab and pull on each other to cause a bending action which moves the flagellum so it can swim to the egg. Mitochondria for energy. Macrophage. A type of white blood cell that destroys harmful bacteria and foreign invaders. Vesicles enclose microbe. Lysosome fuses with vesicle and digests microbe into pieces. Receptor on membrane of helper T cell attaches to a displayed molecule on macrophage. The attachment activates other cells of the immune system to carry out their functions. Muscle. Contract to cause movement. Actin and myosin filaments that bind to each other and pull, causing the filament to slide past one another. Lots of mitochondria for energy. Number 4. Cells organize themselves into tissue, a bunch of cells that do the same job, which ultimately form organs. 5. What are stem cells? Cells that are not specialized yet have the ability to become any type of specialized cell. Babies start out as stem cells and then become specialized cells because cues tell the cell that what genes to turn on to produce the special structures that the cell will need. Number 6. Cells decide what kind of specialized cells they will become based on cues which can be internal or external. Okay, continuing with number 7. Define diffusion. Movement of molecules from areas of high concentration to low concentration. Example, when perfume is sprayed, the molecules move or spread through the air rather than stay in only the place they were sprayed. Food coloring in water is another example. Define osmosis. Diffusion of water or movement of water from high concentration to low concentration. Define homeostasis. The process or tendency of the body to seek balanced, stable conditions. Number 10. Describe the structure of a cell membrane. Phospholipid bilayer made of phospholipids arranged in two rows on top of each other, the two layers. Also, there are proteins found in the membrane that allow certain molecules in and out if they cannot pass through the bilayer. Number 11. What factors influence a molecule's ability to pass through a cell membrane? If it's big or if it's charged, it cannot pass through the phospholipid bilayer. Also, it cannot pass through the membrane if it's already on the side that has the lower concentration. How do molecules get into a cell if they cannot pass through easily? Proteins in the cell membrane. Number 13. List and describe the three types of membrane transport. Simple diffusion is small or unchanged molecules simply moving from high to low concentration by diffusing through the phospholipid bilayer. Does not require energy. Facilitated diffusion. Large or charged molecules pass through the membrane from high to low concentration with some help from a protein that acts like a special tunnel. It does not require energy. Active transport does require energy. Proteins move molecules from low to high concentration, aka against the concentration gradient, also known as uphill. Number 14 is when is energy needed to move a molecule through a cell membrane? When it's moving from low concentration to high, going to an area that is more crowded. Number 15, fill in the missing percentages. Determine if the solution is hypertonic, isotonic, or hypotonic. Draw arrows indicating which direction water will flow. This section is not filled in. Number 16, explain what would happen to your cells if you were given an IV of pure water at the hospital. The water would be hypotonic compared to your cells. The concentration of solutes inside the cell would be greater than the concentration of solutes outside of the cell. This means water would move into the cell by osmosis. Normally, water would stop moving into the cell once homeostasis or balance was reached, but since the concentration of water inside the cell can never be 100% like it is outside the cell, water would keep moving in until the cell eventually burst. Number 17, describe positive feedback. A disturbance in the system produces a chain reaction that produces even more of itself at every step, like a snowball effect. A produces B, which produces more A, which produces more B. Number 18, give an example of positive feedback. Example, labor. Contractions trigger hormones that trigger more contractions and speed up labor. Another example is blood clotting. Number 19, describe negative feedback. A change in the system triggers a process that reverses the change and brings the system back to normal balance. Number 20. Give an example of negative feedback. If you got hot, your temperature starts to rise. That's the stimulus or the environmental change. Neurons, receptors, sense the change and send a message to the hypothalamus control center. The hypothalamus sends a signal to blood vessels, the effector, to dilate. This causes the warm blood to move closer to your skin. This causes the warm blood to move closer to your skin so the heat can escape. Also, the sweat glands, another effector, are triggered to produce sweat. Number 21. List 3 things your body has to regulate to keep within a constant range or set point throughout the day, and explain the responses your body has when they are not within the acceptable range. pH. So the 3 things are blood pH, temperature, and blood glucose. Number 22. Explain the negative feedback loop that. Okay. Question number 22 continued. Explain the negative feedback loop that takes place when a stimulus causes your body to deviate from its normal set point. The receptor leads to the control center that sends a message to the effector that sends the message back to, which does something that sends it back to homeostasis. So it goes receptor, arrow pointing to control center, arrow pointing to effector, arrow pointing to back to homeostasis. Question 23. List the 7 molecules that all animal cells need to be able to transport across their membranes in order to maintain life. Okay, carbon dioxide, oxygen, water, nutrients, waste, glucose, salts. Number 24, list the 2 molecules a lung cell must transport in order to perform its specialized job. For each molecule, determine the direction it moves, whether a protein is needed for transport, and whether energy is needed for transport. Intestinal and kidney cells are also fair game for the exam. Okay, so oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen needs to move into the lung cells toward the bloodstream and does not require a protein because it is small, uncharged, and moving from high concentration into the alveoli to low concentration in the blood. Carbon dioxide needs to move from the bloodstream through the lung cells to out in the air. It does not require a protein for its size or charge, but it does require a special membrane protein that uses energy to move it. Number 25. What happens to your kidneys on a cellular level when urine builds up and is not removed from the body? Toxins and water that are trying to pass through the kidneys from the bloodstream into the urine cannot diffuse across the kidney cells because they are no longer moving from high concentration to low. Therefore, they build up in the bloodstream and can lead to blood poisoning. And that is the end.